Hi everyone, I want to talk to you today about what I would invest in if I had a limited homeschool budget. Welcome to Our Life Homeschooling. My name is Sherry, Christian, wife to my high school sweetheart Nelson, and thankful mom to 10 incredible kids. I'm the author of the blog and YouTube channel Our Life Homeschooling, where I share homeschooling encouragement for everyday moms. I believe that motherhood is ministry and homeschooling is simply an extension of parenting. My passion is to cheer on other moms who are at home doing the most important work of all, raising the next generation for the glory of God. We're away on vacation this week. Maybe you can see that the room I'm in is a little bit different than our home, but I still wanted to bring you guys a video and share some homeschooling encouragement. So I'm just sitting down and recording a video on my phone, which I'm not used to doing. I had to do this about 5 times because I was looking at the wrong spot on the camera. And if I still do that, I'm sorry. I had to actually Google where you're supposed to look when you're recording a video on your phone. So I'm not used to recording in this way, but I hope you all can still get some value from what I have to share. In the past 15 years that we've been homeschooling, this is our 16th year. We've had times of abundance and times that were very lean. And whenever we had some extra money to spend on some nice homeschool tools, it was so fun. It's nice to have extra things that you can spend money on. We were able to maybe take more field trips, or just buy some manipulatives or fun educational games, just things that made it more exciting and fun. But it wasn't always like that. We've also gone through some lean times where it was just bare bones and we didn't have a ton of money to spend on homeschool supplies. But after all these years of homeschooling, I want to share with you what I think would be like if I had a bare bones budget, if I had very little to work with, exactly what I would spend my money on and in what ways I would layer it, starting with the first couple and then building on the last few. I once read a story in an old homeschooling magazine. I can't even remember the magazine I read it in, and I've shared this in 1 or 2 other videos. I wish I had cut it out and saved it because it's had a lasting impression on me. It was a little article written by a homeschool graduate, someone who said, looking back, he thought he had an excellent education. And this excellent education wasn't because his parents took him on all these exciting field trips. It wasn't because they had the best curriculum. They actually had a very rudimentary curriculum. It was just a couple basic textbooks, access to the library. It was a lot of time learning life skills at home. It wasn't anything extraordinary, but looking back at his education, his perspective was that he had had a stellar education with just a few simple tools that his mom used at home. And I am convinced more than ever that a true education is not expensive. There's a big difference between schooling and education. Schooling is very expensive, and I think you can see this when you look at all the money that's been thrown into the education system over the past decades, and yet we continue to have failing scores in our schools. In contrast, you can look at the lives of people who had such limited resources, yet became very educated, excellent orators, debaters. I think of Frederick Douglass, who had very little means as a young boy, yet grew up to be one of the greatest orators our country has ever known. Even the recent Charlie Kirk, he had no college education. Many people mocked him for that, but he was one of the greatest debaters of our time, and that's because he was well-read and he loved to learn. So a real education is not expensive. I want to share with you the 5 things I would invest in from most important down if I had a limited budget. The first investment is completely free, and that is the Bible. The Bible itself is an excellent education. If you are not using the Bible in your homeschool, if you're not reading it personally, for yourself, if you're not reading it to your children, you are missing out on the most valuable curriculum available to you. When Nelson and I started homeschooling several years ago, everything was new to us. I was reading everything I could on education. I was reading a ton of Charlotte Mason's works. They were so inspiring to me. And we started making a lot of changes in our home. One of the changes that we made was to begin reading the Bible to our family at breakfast and dinner time. And I cannot tell you what an awakening happened in our household from reading the Bible together. It had so many effects on us, on our marriage, on our parenting. The Bible is full of wisdom. It's full of warnings, warning you what to stay away from, what to seek after. It changes your desires. And I've had this happen many times. I'll just read a short passage of scripture to my kids, and it might just happen to be something about loving one another or overlooking someone's faults, forgiving each other, and it just totally changes the atmosphere in our home. Reading the Bible to our children has given everyone an increased desire to learn. Our kids have learned so much history through reading the Bible, just reading about the creation account all the way through the children of Israel in Egypt being led out of Egypt, and then the time of the judges and the kings, the kingdom of Israel being split between the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, then the northern kingdom being captured by Assyria, and then the southern kingdom going into captivity in Babylon. They've learned so much history from us reading the Bible together. They've also learned a ton about science, just an understanding of the concept of the 7 days of creation and how God spoke each part of the world into existence in the first 6 days and then rested on the seventh day. And I think when you look at archaeological discoveries and the new things they're always discovering in science, it always affirms what the Bible teaches. So the first investment is hands down reading the Bible to your family. This is free. You can get the app on your phone if you don't have a Bible in your home. And a Bible is very easy to come by. The second thing I would invest in is a good math curriculum. And specifically, I prefer a curriculum that really teaches the base 10 system very clearly. Our family uses Singapore, but we started with Right Start Math. Right Start Math gives kids a great understanding of the base 10 system. I did feel like our kids needed a little bit more practice with the actual writing and figuring problems on paper. So we moved to Singapore, and Singapore also has helped our kids be able to do math independently, which we really needed as our family grew. Singapore is pretty cheap. We buy just the teacher's manual, which I only had to buy one time, and I keep it for all the kids after that. The textbook, which is another one that's just a one-time purchase. I think each textbook is like $17, and that's one that they will use a notebook with to answer the questions. And then the last one is a workbook. This also is like, I think like $15, but this is consumable, so you do have to spend this every year. But there are inexpensive math curriculums in there. If I had to spend money on anything, I would pick spending on a good math curriculum. Another great curriculum that we've used is Saxon. It's very simplistic. Kids can do it sequentially on their own. From my experience in teaching our kids math, and even from things that I learned from teaching math in the public school system, the most important thing are the basic computation skills: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. They should be able to do these quickly and without a lot of mental effort. If they can perform the basic computation skills, then they will have no problem moving on to the next step, which is decimals, percentages, and fractions. Everything you do with decimals, percentages, and fractions is based on your addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division skills. So having a really strong foundation in those is so important. And one thing that's super cheap, you can probably go out to Walmart and get it for like $2 or $3, are just some basic flashcards. I use skip counting to teach our kids multiplication and division facts, but we also use flashcards. They're super handy for helping kids just learn them quickly. All the other math concepts like geometry, telling time, measurements, All those are periphery. I feel like you can learn a lot of them through life skills, but the basic computation skills are super important because they're the foundation for higher level math and higher level thinking. I recently had someone ask me when I let our kids use a calculator. And I think the question specifically was, do I have them use it even for factoring? And I don't, because factoring is still basic multiplication skills. Even if you have a number like 72, for example, you just need to know your basic multiplication facts to be able to factor it out. Now, if you had a little bit larger number, like a 3-digit or like a 4-digit number, and you needed to find just that initial number to break it down a little bit, maybe I would allow them to use a calculator. But for the most part, we use a calculator when they get into higher level math. The third thing I would invest in if I had a limited budget would be a good phonics and language arts curriculum. Teaching a child to read is not as difficult, I think, as many parents make it out to be. I've taught 8 of our 10 kids to read using Bob books. They've added a couple more things, just some interesting workbooks and kind of some fancy things to the Bob books choices when you go onto their curriculum website. But we bought just the original set of 5, and each box has, I think, like 8 books in it. There are 5 boxes, and I just bought one set at a time. I think one box is like $11. It's very affordable. We used Bob books. They're simplistic, and they were a great tool for teaching our kids to read. One thing that really helped me as I went along teaching our kids to read using Bob books was to use a phonics guide. And I actually made one up myself when I was teaching our first child, because I felt like I loved the Bob books, but it didn't really have some phonics rules and examples to go along with it. And I also wanted a nice sight word list because there were some words that you can't sound out. Anyhow, I made my own, and eventually when I started my channel and the blog, I made a nice set. You can find it on the blog if you like the companion guide for teaching Bob books. It's just a simple guide that I use alongside with my kids to teach them how to read with Bob books. It's $8 on the blog, very affordable. Using the phonics guide along with the Bob books has just been a very affordable way for us to teach our kids how to read. After they learn to read, I've used Charlotte Mason's ideas and specifically Ambleside Online to teach our kids to write using Copywork, dictation, and narration. And this is a website on the internet. Everything is absolutely free. They have a lot of book lists on there. And so if you're looking for something that has no cost, Ambleside Online is a rich curriculum. Don't think that, like I said in the beginning, don't think that if something is free, it's not really good. We've been using Ambleside Online for all my kids. Personally, I haven't found anything else better out there. I love Ambleside. I am a faithful student of everything they have on there. It's actually too rich. You have to kind of limit what you do because there's so much available to you on there. The last thing that we have invested in with our kids for a language arts program is once they're in about 4th grade, I do buy a good grammar book for them. So this is a little bit of an expense, and this is just to help teach them basic grammar. The 8 parts of speech, understanding the difference between a noun and a verb, different kinds of sentences, all of those things. I think it helps them become better writers if they understand good grammar. The 4th thing I would invest in is also free, and that is a library card and access to the internet. By reading to your kids, you not only teach them subjects like history, science, civics, health, literature, and so much more. When you read to your kids, you are giving them an insatiable desire to learn about everything in the world. I spend a lot of time reading to our kids. I could be using some kind of expensive curriculum to do this, or I could just be using our local library. So it does not need to cost you a lot of money to read good books to your kids. When we're at the library, one thing I encourage our kids to do is to go to the nonfiction section. Of course, they always go to their favorite authors and pick things in the fiction section. That's kind of easy. But we've also tried to spend a lot of time in the nonfiction section learning about different people, or learning about science experiments or cooking or the solar system. Bringing home books like that, even just having them around the house, having them in baskets or crates, the kids just get interested and will read them randomly when they're sitting around playing or just bored in general. They'll pick up books, so make good use of your local library. A library is also a great place to find DVDs, educational DVDs about science and history. Audiobooks are wonderful. Our library has so many audiobooks, and they're great for kids that are struggling readers. I've had a few kids that have trouble sitting down and reading a book, but they will listen to an audiobook for a long time. So audiobooks are great for that. With the internet, you can learn anything you want to. Any skill you want to learn, just get on YouTube and you can teach yourself how to do it. One thing our family loves, we have a subscription to World Watch. So this is a cost, it's $6.99 a month, but it's fairly minimal. It's world news from a Christian perspective, and my kids absolutely love it. They have learned so much. So this is a small investment that we have made. It's not one I put first, second, or even third on the list. This is our fourth. But over time, this is something we have invested in, and we love World Watch. Fifth thing I would invest in if I had a limited budget would be all the riches. So everything on top of or in the periphery of math, reading, and writing. We cover the beautiful subjects, truth, goodness, and beauty in morning time. And I do this through my simple morning time notebook. This is a notebook that I make every year for our kids. It's 33 pages. You can purchase one on the blog, ourlifehomeschooling.com, for $9. You have permission to print off as many copies as you need for your personal family. I've tried to make this affordable for families who want to give their kids all the beautiful subjects, but first of all, maybe don't have the time to put it all together themselves, and secondly, don't want to have to spend a fortune to be able to do that. For those of you that are working with a limited budget this year, or maybe you can see that coming in the near future, I hope this gives you some insight on what to focus on first, what to prioritize. If you have some ideas for how you have cut costs in your homeschool budget, would you comment below and just share those with others? Let's keep the conversation going and help each other as we're homeschooling our kids. Well, thank you so much for watching. If this video encouraged you, would you do me a favor and like and subscribe? I do one video a week on homeschooling encouragement for everyday moms. I'll see you next week.